And I believe that when Jesus died, by his stripes we are healed. I mean, obviously, I think the forgiveness of sins is the most important, but man, being healed of our pains and aches and diseases, to be able to live a life a little bit more of ease, I think is a phenomenal benefit.
When I was 15 weeks pregnant, I had a standard blood test. If the chromosome levels come back low, which mine were, there's a possibility that your baby could have Down syndrome. When the test came back positive, the next step was an amniocentesis to confirm for sure whether or not our baby had Down syndrome. The amnio the entire time was presented to us as something very routine, very minimal risk, slight risk of miscarriage, but really, you know, it was so slight that it wasn't hardly worth mentioning. I called the doctor about midnight and said, you know, I've been leaking and I'm not sure, you know, I had the amnio today, and she said, lay down and come and see me first thing in the morning. We went to the doctor's office. She did an ultrasound and she got really worried and then said, your fluid level is very low and I want to send you over to the hospital. The perinatologist does another ultrasound, says it does look low. Let's just look at it overnight. Hopefully your fluid levels will come up and we'll see more in the morning. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt some leaking. I called the nurse. They came rushing in and they looked down and they looked at the little strip and they looked at me with their faces fallen and they said, it's not here, it's fluid. And then I just was devastated. My doctor came in and sat down and with Mike there, had a long conversation with the logistics. She said it's inevitable that you're gonna get an infection. If this is what you choose to do, if you want to lay here and try to save your baby, I will allow it, is what she told me. However, we will only be monitoring you. There's nothing we can do for this baby, so at this point we are not doing anything for your baby. We will just take care of you. As soon as we show any sign of infection, we will take the baby because it will be affecting your life. I remember asking her, will you try to save him? Will you put him in an incubator? Will you do anything? And she said, we can't do anything. And I said, well, then what do you do with the baby? I remember asking all these questions. What will you do with the baby? And she said, it's your choice. You can see him, you can hold him until he passes away if you want to. And at that point, I remember after she left visualizing that, me holding a little baby, you know, this big until and watching him pass away. And I said, I can't do that. I can't. No, that's not something I can go through. That's when I really started praying, God, you have to save my baby. Please, please save this baby. So I had written from my notes little verses, like as the best I could laying down, and taped them kind of to my bedside table, and they were all scribbly. And Drew and Michelle Phillips had come to visit me, and they saw I was telling them about my verses and about all my notes I had from Pastor Jim, and they said, oh, can I borrow those? And I said, sure, but I'm looking at them. And they said, okay. So they wrote them down on a separate piece of paper and came back with them blown up in these huge pieces of paper and posted them all over my room. So every day I was looking at all these verses that I had scribbled out, but they were posted up, and it was just such comfort because every time I needed something, I would roll over and see another verse that was encouraging to me. And the next day, Pastor Don came in and said, we at Faith are standing by you. If this is the decision that you're making, this is the miracle you're believing for, we are believing with you. We are praying for you and we are believing with you. And I don't think she had any idea how much I needed to hear those words.
The Langs had really spent some time building their life on the right principles, and therefore when they got hit with a really severe storm and being told your child should be aborted, and to have the guts, the courage, the faith to weather that storm and come on the other side victorious, I think is incredible.
They had been learning, growing in the Word, and they stood by faith with everything that they had.
They started doing ultrasounds and my fluid levels were going up. She finally one day said, I think you've sealed. I think your sac has sealed over. And that is something that my doctor had never seen in her 12 years that she had been a practicing OB-GYN. So at 37 weeks, we had a scheduled C-section. So we went and we had lunch together and we were so excited. And then we went in and they induced me. But the minute I saw him, I remember the first thing I said was, he's so tiny. And then I said, he's so beautiful. He had a head full of blonde hair. He was gorgeous and perfect, absolutely perfect.
It was just overwhelming to see what God had really done for us. It was, it's hard to put it in words, explain it.
The day that they told us that we could go home was the day the doctor came in and said, you've sealed, you did the right thing for this baby. She being the one that told us there was no chance and termination was my only option. She said, I was wrong. You made the right choice for this baby. I'll never forget the day I walked into church and I just sat close to the front and wept through the entire praise and worship. The thing that I had a hard time grasping when it did happen was, wow, I can't believe God, who's God, did that for us. And I just feel so, so blessed.